Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about, is Jason Anderson too aggressive? Is he too dirty? Is he too aggressive? Is he over-aggressive? Right? All that kind of talk in light of this recent situation that we had between Jason Anderson and Malcolm Stewart. Little bit of a doozy there. So I thought it was very important for me to come in here and make a video on this, kind of give my opinion on this. So I'm trying to be as fair as I possibly can be to both sides because I like Malcolm Stewart. I like Jason Anderson. I like both of them. I think they're both really good for the sport. They're both really cool personalities. I really am trying to be as fair to both sides here. So when it comes to Jason Anderson, okay, I don't think he's a dirty rider, right? I definitely don't think he's a dirty rider. Too aggressive? I mean, yeah, at times I think he's too aggressive. I just think he's a really, really aggressive racer, you know? Whoa, Spency boy on the toughies. I think Jason Anderson is just a very, very aggressive racer, right? I would put him like one level under. Holy shit, we're popping off left and right out here, boys. I would put Jason Anderson like one tick under a Justin Barcia on the aggression/dirty riding scale. You know, I would put him like one level under a Barcia, but an interesting little thing right here, I would put Jason Anderson and Malcolm Stewart both on pretty much the same level on that exact same aggressive riding scale. I would just about put them both on the same level, okay? If you don't remember, just earlier in this season, Malcolm Stewart took out Jason Anderson in a corner. Do you remember that? I'm pretty sure that was the same race that Justin Barcia took out Anderson, right? But Malcolm did it like in one of the heat races or whatever. So let's not forget that, okay? When some of you want to start talking about, well, Anderson's so dirty, dude. How could he do that to Malcolm, dude? Oh my God, dude. Well, for some of you that, you know, something wrong with your memory, Malcolm Stewart literally just did this to Jason Anderson earlier in the season. So, yeah, there's that right there. All right, so that's just something to mention. But I think one of the biggest issues that's happening here is with a lot of these like collisions in Supercross nowadays in the corners, I think one of the biggest reasons for that really is the way they're designing these tracks. And Ricky Carmichael and Jeff Emig just spoke about this on their Real Talk 447 that they just did, right? Let me see if I can land this. Woo! Getting reflexed out here, baby. They just talked about this, like how the power of the bikes and how the corners are really cutting down tighter. The ruts are really cutting down tighter in the corners. And I think that's part of what is creating more of these collision moments in these corners nowadays. So I really do honestly believe it's almost more of the track's design than it is anything. You know, the more power out of the bikes, they can really go super far inside and still hit those triple ends on these 450s. So I think that is part of it right there. Anderson doesn't waste any time. You know what I'm saying? When he gets up to somebody, he's going to either get around you or somebody's going to crash. You know, he don't waste any time. He makes that pass quick, or he tries to make that pass pretty quick, and it reaches up to bite him from time to time. It really does. Now, like I say, it's all in that, like, I really don't believe Anderson is a dirty rider. I don't think that. And even in the Malcolm Stewart situation, even though that Anderson could have been doing a payback move from the previous, when Malcolm Stewart took out Jason Anderson earlier in the season, I really don't even think that's what Jason Anderson was trying to do. I really don't think he was even trying to pay back Malcolm Stewart right there. I really, really, really don't. Dog, Jason Anderson is thinking about one thing and one thing only, and that's the 450 Supercross championship this year. That's all he's thinking about, bro. trust me, Anderson really don't give that much of a shit about these little these little contact rivalries that he's having with some of these guys. Anderson really is thinking bigger picture here. I honestly believe that. And I think it really just comes down to he's just really aggressive. He tries to make that pass fast. But in the exact same token, you got to wonder, like, did Malcolm Stewart not hear Jason Anderson? I mean, did he... I don't really understand what happened there per se as far as, like, what was going through Malcolm Stewart's mind. I mean, that rut cuts really far inside. And it's like, yeah, Jason Anderson has the right to go up the inside for the lead of a main event. You know what I mean? Shit, this ain't for 5th place. This is for the lead of the main event right here, boys. You know what I'm saying? So that right there makes this situation right here totally different. Have you noticed these moments in 2022 Supercross where Jason... Holy shit. Jump over the tough blocks real quick. Have you noticed both moments where Jason Anderson took out Ken Roxon and when he took out Malcolm Stewart? Both of those moments were for the lead of the main event. So I just want to make that kind of clear here. You know, this wasn't for 5th place in a heat race. This wasn't for, 7th place in an LCQ. This wasn't no bullshit, right? This was for both moments where Jason Anderson has taken out these dudes this year has been for the lead of a main event. All right? So I just want to make that very clear. Like when Barcia took out Anderson, when Malcolm Stewart took out Anderson earlier in the season, neither one of those moments were for the lead of a main event. So anytime somebody takes out somebody, you can always be more harsh on it when it's not for the lead of a main event. That's my own personal opinion on it. If it's for the lead of a main event, I'm not saying all bets are off or like they're just allowed to do whatever the fuck they want. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that you got to be a little less harsh when it is for the lead of a main event, because that is where you would put all your chips on the table. You know what I'm saying? You'd be doing everything you can to try to pass that guy because it's for the lead of the main event. Now, they did both go down, so obviously Jason Anderson was a little too aggressive. He ran it in there too hard. I think this situation was definitely a little more aggressive, a little more Jason Anderson's fault than the Anderson-Roxon crash that happened a couple rounds back there. But at the exact same time, I mean, it's like Malcolm Stewart also did cut down in the corner. You know, he definitely did do that. And Malcolm Stewart also took out Jason Anderson a couple rounds back. So it's kind of it is what it is kind of thing right here, man. I mean, I don't think anybody should have got docked. I don't think anybody should have got suspended or put on probation or anything like that. You know, you don't want to start. I'm a firm believer, like I've said before, in I don't think AMA should really get all that involved in it. Just let the boys do what they're going to do on the track. Now, one thing I did notice that was a little bit weird was when Jason Anderson took out Malcolm Stewart, Jason Anderson, basically, when they got back up, like Jason Anderson had a hold of his handlebars. He had a hold of his bike on the ground. He was trying to pick his bike back up. And Malcolm Stewart then went in there and pushed him down with Malcolm Stewart trying to get to his own bike, which basically cost Jason Anderson like an extra 2 or 3 seconds right there trying to pick up his bike. That was a little bit, I don't know what to think about that one right there. Of course, yes, Malcolm Stewart got up and Jason Anderson and his bike was basically just in the way of Malcolm Stewart getting back to his own bike, but you can tell he consciously pushed Jason Anderson basically away from Jason Anderson's bike when he pretty much was already about to pick it back up. You could tell Malcolm Stewart consciously did that. He was like, all right, you're going to take me out. So then now after we've crashed, I'm going to push you down back away from your bike so that it takes you longer to get back on your bike. And see, that right there to me is kind of like, easy now, Malcolm. Easy now, bro. Don't forget what you just did to Jason Anderson a couple rounds back. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget what you just did. Okay? If somebody takes you down, don't worry about pushing the guy away from his bike or pushing the guy down or picking the guy up and all that fucking shit. Get back on your own bike, dog. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel about that. Like, all Jason Anderson was trying to do was get back on his bike. And with Malcolm Stewart taking the time to push Jason Anderson back down, all that's doing is costing the both of them. All that's doing is slowing down the both of them in the main event. That's really what I believe right there. But nonetheless, man, it was for the lead. They were closing up on the final laps of that main event. So it's like, you know, I can blame somebody a lot more when they make a pass like that in a fucking heat race or like for 5th place in a main event or whatever. I can blame somebody a lot more when it's not for the lead when they're closing up to the end of the race. I think they had like 2 minutes or something left of that main event where Anderson took out Malcolm Stewart, right? But you see what I'm saying? It's kind of all situational like that. But I think the big thing that's happening right here is Jason Anderson really just is on a whole nother speed level than anybody else out there. I think that's a big part of it right there. Like, I think the only guy that's even remotely on the same planet as Jason Anderson right now is Eli Tomac. And you guys saw when they kind of got into that little bit of a battle in one of those Triple Crown races, neither one of the guys went down. They were able to kind of race it out. That was really cool. They were wide open, bar to bar down the straightaway, just fucking on the 450s. That was really cool seeing that. But, you know, they raced really close. They kind of made a little bit of contact, but not too much. But I feel like that was a moment of two guys that were more on the same speed level. It seems like they can race better when they're closer in speed, you know, when they're closer in speed levels. It's like, I think that's part of what is causing Jason Anderson to run into some of these guys, like when he doesn't really anticipate it. You know, it's because of these certain individuals not being on the same speed level as Jason Anderson. And so he's going so much faster. And when he catches up to that guy, I think it kind of catches him off guard and he kind of, you know, gets up there to him on the inside quicker than he anticipates it. And then it causes that collision because of that difference of speed levels. Whereas like when you get somebody like Anderson and Tomac together, they kind of race it out a little bit more. They battle it out a little bit more because they're closer in speed level. They're kind of, I don't know any other way to explain that, but I think that's also part of what's happening here as well, is just the difference of speed level between Jason Anderson and whoever he's trying to pass. You know, I'm not trying to make all the excuses for Anderson here. I'm just trying to lay all this out right here. So yeah, nonetheless, definitely let me know what you guys think about all this down below in the comments. Anderson is the fucking big dog right now, and there's just no doubt about it. Nobody else is on Anderson's level right now, period. I just don't believe it. I do not believe it. So Anderson's riding like a totally different, I mean, I think Anderson's riding better than he ever has before. I said that earlier in the season. He's the fucking man right now. And so it's not really a surprise that if a dude's in front of him that's slower, you know, they're going to kind of get caught up like that. You know what I mean? There's going to be times where Anderson comes over a jump into a corner and he doesn't really anticipate the guy being, oh my God, Spency Boy going for the Mac Daddy lines, dude. Woohoo! Holy shit. I think that's part of it right there, you know? Anderson's just going so fucking fast that it kind of puts him in those oh shit moments where he doesn't really realize that somebody's going to cut down in the corner or where somebody's going to be in the corner quite like they are. You know, I think all that's playing a part in combination with the track designs, but I genuinely don't believe Anderson is like too dirty of a rider or oh my God, Anderson's like a Barsha. I don't believe that. I think he's like right under a Barsha on the Richter scale of super aggression, but I still don't think he's to the level of a Barsha. I think he's just a super, super aggressive rider, not really a dirty rider, but that's just my own opinion on it. And I believe Malcolm Stewart and Jason Anderson are the same level of aggression. They just ride with a lot of aggression when they're racing. So, I think it all comes full circle. Like if Anderson takes out, or if Malcolm Stewart takes out Anderson, then eventually Anderson will take out Malcolm Stewart again, and then eventually Malcolm Stewart will take out Anderson again, and then it's just going to go back and forth, So some of you guys that are just saying Anderson is totally in the wrong, how could he do that to Malcolm Stewart? You need to be careful saying that because there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye right here. Malcolm Stewart did just do this to Jason Anderson. So that's all I'm saying. Let the boys race. Let them do their thing. Let them handle their feuds and battles and rivalries, and that's what makes this shit fun, man. That's what makes it exciting. So that's why I'm saying I don't think any one of these any one of these guys should get a suspension or a dock position or put on probation. I don't think any of that shit should happen. And it's like I'm saying, if some of you guys are acting like Jason Anderson should get like on probation or get a suspension for over-aggressive riding. Well, in that exact same token, if AMA was going to do that, then they would also have to do something to Malcolm Stewart for then pushing Jason Anderson out of the way after they got back up after the crash. So it's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It goes both ways. You know what I'm saying? Jason Anderson took out Malcolm Stewart, but then also Malcolm Stewart pushed down Jason Anderson away from his own bike when he was trying to pick it up after the crash happened. So it's like, I'm not really picking one of either side here on this. I really am 50-50 on this one. This is just one of those moments. Yeah, Anderson's riding aggressive as fuck, but it was for the lead. They were closing down to the last minutes of the main event. And also, Malcolm Stewart is not a saint either. He pushed down Jason Anderson after the fact and took out Jason Anderson earlier in the season. So it's just like, you see what I'm saying? You can't really be too much one way or the other on this one right here. You got to be careful just isolating that one incident because there's always more to the story than that. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. This is just going to be one of those spicy things where whichever rider you're the biggest fan of, you're going to totally side with whichever one. That's just typical. That's how it always goes. But I'm just saying they're both guilty of whatever the fuck you're trying to blame the other one for. They're both guilty of it. Just in this season, they're both guilty of it. So, just be careful doing that because Malcolm Stewart is also an aggressive rider. Jason Anderson's an aggressive rider. It was totally different in the Barsha situation when Barsha took out Anderson, though, because that was an instant retaliation after being passed, okay? And that wasn't even for the lead. So that was kind of a totally different argument there. And even with the Malcolm Stewart taking out Anderson, that also wasn't for the lead. And I don't even think that was in a main event, but nonetheless, there's kind of some differences here when you talk about these situations, but obviously, Anderson's riding as hard as he can, super aggressive, and there ain't nothing against the law about that, There ain't nothing against the rules about that, but is he too aggressive? I think it's just at times, I think he gets there to that, too aggressive point, but also I think there's a lot of other times where he's not too aggressive. Just like when he caught up to Tomac in that one race, he easily could have blown Tomac out of the water and took him out, but he didn't. They sat there and went back and forth for 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 laps or whatever. So it's obviously Jason Anderson is not trying to just take out everybody. That's not what's going on here. I think he was just going faster into that corner. Malcolm Stewart cut down. He really didn't anticipate it, but at the exact same time, he did also cause the crash that caused them both to go down. So, it's just kind of 50-50. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at on this one. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dude.